fascinating. I've really enjoyed Isabel's presentation, and there's a lot in that sort of is very pertinent to what I'm going to speak about now. Just to check, can everyone see my slide? Because at the moment I've just got like an awkward bar down one side. Can everyone
I
just see
think
my
it's
screen, or
okay.
can they see?
Yeah.
All good. Good. Brilliant. So, just to start with, because obviously you all know each other, and this is my first time in this group, I wanted to do a little bit about where I've come from, why I'm here, and maybe just a little bit of scene setting. And then Roxanne and Isabel, after we'd had our first meeting, asked me to tell you a little bit more about the Network Plus which is a multi-million-pound collaborative program that we've currently got running. So if I can just start with a little bit about Leeds, LETAC, and why I'm the person that's speaking with you, and then we'll lead on from there. So hopefully this is going to click through okay, and I'll not keep clicking and talking. I'll just talk through the slide. The University of Leeds is one of the longest established textile research institutes in the country. We were formed in 1874 on the back of the Yorkshire College of Science, and the Yorkshire College of Science started off with a focus on textiles and colour, but very much with an industry-facing point of view. We were established with some funding from the Cloth Workers Company, which is one of the big medieval livery companies that are still in operation in London. And since then, we've had this very extended development period where we've been serving the industry, we've been developing the research. Textile and colour were one of the founding units for the University of Leeds. And in this section in here in the middle, you can see we have several very significant names that are alumni from Leeds. I think most of which have also taught at Leeds. And then as the relationships have been developing, we've had more and more input from industry via the Cloth Workers Company, via the Textile Livery Group. And in 2021, there was a major investment, just over 21 million of new money. So this isn't repurposed money, this is new money coming into the university to establish LETAC. LETAC is the Leeds Institute of Textiles and Colour, and with the as I say, the biggest critical mass of textiles research, including technical textiles within the UK. We've got research centres, the Cloth Workers, it's the Cloth Workers Company Textiles for Medical Innovation and Healthcare, the 3T Weaving and Innovation Centre, Future Fashion Factory, and then we have a number of spin-outs from the textile research groups. This list is actually out of date. We've got 2 more since this slide was put together, and unfortunately it was put together in a block, so I couldn't change that. So that's sort of where we're coming from. I was very grateful for the opportunity to come and speak, because obviously now we're back in Europe, and I just want to have a disclaimer here. I never left. Personally, I don't believe that we've ever left Europe, and I think it's a bit ridiculous to assume that we can disengage from anything that's going in Europe. But now we're allowed to play back with the funding. It's very important to us that we re-establish connectivity. So, looking at LETAC, what have we got? This is the over 100 staff and PhDs is within our faculty. We're over 240 academics, researchers that are interested in textiles, colour and fashion across the university in its entirety. Within our faculty, within our school, we have textiles research. And again, I'm not going to read the slides. I'm assuming that you will want to circulate afterwards. So you can see the different areas of research that we bundle under these main headings. So textiles, fashion, polymer science and colour science. We have very active research groups in all these areas. And then just before we go on to the Network Plus, which is what obviously I've been asked to speak about, I just want to mention a very significant programme of activity that we have been undertaking since 2018. The Future Fashion Factory was part of this up here. You see this logo, the Creative Industries Clusters Programme. This was the first major piece of investment that the UKRI, UK Research and Innovation, put into the creative sector. And we were very fortunate. We had a £6.1 million award, which we delivered on from October 2018 through to May 2024. The Future Fashion Factory embedded a very industry-focused, impact-focused way of thinking for us. It's aligned with the roots of our research groups going all the way back that 150 years. We were established to be doing everything we could to support the sector. That is still our mission. We're not specifically driven by academic research groups. We're driven by what difference can we make in the real world to the sector, not just in the UK or Europe, but globally. Future Fashion Factory was the first iteration of this process. And if anyone wants to have a look, I've embedded a link here so that when the slides are circulated, you can look at some of the reports and the outcomes and the case studies of working with industry that have come out of that thought process. So moving on to the bit that we are speaking about, and why I was absolutely fascinated by not just Isabel's talk, but the first presentation as well, because UKRI, in consultation with the Creative Industry Cluster Programme, with UKFT, which is the UK Fashion and Textiles Association, our sector body for the UK, developed a wish list of what they thought the sector needed to enable us to make a transition towards net zero. And they invested 15 million in the catchily titled Circular Fashion and Textile Programme. We have the Network Plus, which I will tell you about a little bit more about in a few minutes. The Sorting and Recycling Demonstrator, this is ACT UK, and I actually put the link in the chat after the first presentation. The Circular Fashion and Innovation Network, which was run jointly by the British Fashion Council and UKFT. And then there were a certain number of smaller knowledge transfer projects. So this programme of activity was put together, as I say, in consultation, not just with academia and the research councils, but with industry as well. We've got sector bodies involved, so UKFT, BFC, RAP and the Textiles 2030 programme. And UKFT and RAP specifically are bringing industry's voice to all of the research in these projects. We're going to talk about that for the moment, but generally speaking, we're looking at a roadmap to help industry transition. That's the whole point behind the UKRI funded programme. The other thing to say here, this fashion demonstrator reports, if you look on the Future Fashion Factory website and you look on the left-hand side drop down, you'll see that there is a book of Future Fashion Factory case studies, but there are also two of 4 reports that are coming out from this suite. The third one will be ready as soon as I can get the DOI live. So there's just one more to go. Moving on to the Network Plus specifically now. The call was very specific. We were looking at the different elements that you might need to think about when assessing how we're going to move forward and how we're going to know whether we've moved forward. I thought it was really interesting, Isabel, that you mentioned trust as an issue in why sometimes people were reluctant to buy things that say that they're sustainable, because people don't trust that what is said is actually true. Part of what we're doing here is the subnetwork that LETAC's actually looking at. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that, excuse me. this subnetwork 2 here, back to baselines, is actually looking at all these sustainability criteria. Are they robust? Is there any scientific evidence for them? And also one of the things that we're finding through this research is the term greenwashing is being replaced by green hushing. So people that actually probably do believe that they have green credentials, because of the levels of distrust, because of the difficulty in looking at the traceability through the supply chain. So I'm very much looking forward to the next presentation too. People are choosing to say nothing rather than saying what they could say, that they think people might either distrust or challenge them on, and they might not have enough data to back it up. So anyway, that's a slight digression. But the 3 subnetworks are looking at improve the data collection, analysis and assessment. So this is the Impact Plus. This is thinking about what data is already out there, thinking about what people do with it at the moment, thinking about how that adds value. This yellow circle down here, the start to establish the research validated baselines. That's what Back to Baselines is doing. That is a deep dive into where does the data exist? If it doesn't exist, what are the gaps? How can we fill them, and how will that help us move the story forward? And then we have the orangey red circle here, the environmental impact and circularity. This is Future Fibres, and they're looking at microfibers as a case study. So what do we know? What are people already doing with it? And a deep dive into what that actually means. Moving on to the actual subnetwork that the University of Leeds, LETAC specifically, is managing. This is the Back to Baselines in Circular Fashion and Textiles. When we developed the programme, we again spoke to a lot of our industry partners. We have a network of over 600 industry members, right the way up to people like IBM and Tech Data. They're called TXIN, I think now, and all the way down to micro startups. And we sort of said to them what's important to them. We also looked at bringing together an academic team. So we have a very robust academic collaboration here. We've got people from Manchester Met, from Huddersfield, from the Royal College of Art, Nottingham Trent, UAL, Heriot Watt and Newcastle, you can see here. Unusually in a project like this, so unusually in an academic-led project, we have UKFT and RAP both as full project partners. Part of the reason it's unusual is because of the funding rules, but partly, obviously, it's very difficult to embed industry thinking within a research environment effectively. But this is what we've done here. This grouping informed the thematic areas. So TA stands for thematic area. We're looking at, as I say, TA1 is this data-driven, scientifically evidenced. What do we actually know? The TA2 is looking at what people are doing with that. So we've had quite a focus on eco-labels, eco-credentials, how people define them, what they actually mean, and whether they're backed up by any of the evidence that we've pinpointed here. We're talking about technology development, innovation progress, what's current, what's emerging, where do we think we're going in the future. Some of this is digital tooling, but a lot of it is very practice-based as well. Obviously, we can't have a project like this without a skills element. So there's a very strong this one is very much a collaboration with UKFT, who are the sector skills body within the UK. So it goes from schools through further education, higher education, apprenticeships, national occupational standards, which is another element of this. There's a lot of work going on here, and we're trying to connect the dots and make sure that there's a flow through from early years, which is sort of 3 to 5 years, all the way out to postgraduate. And then the evidence-based recommendations are looking at the influences, the cultures, the behaviours, again, which is one of the things that I was fascinated by in Isabel's talk, because you can see that the pressures and the developing understanding is actually changing behaviour. So this is what the back to baselines subnetwork's looking at. Let me see if I can move us forward. Oops. Don't know whether that's working now. Is that better? Has that moved forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So again, this is just maybe an easier way of looking at that rather than the busy diagram. I won't labour that again. I'll just move forward if I can. Here we go. So as part of a Network Plus, Network Plus is a funding mechanism that the UK Research and Innovation has used in a number of areas for a number of specific purposes. But a Network Plus, the plus bit is because we get some funding to allocate during the project at targeted areas that have emerged through the research. So these next 4 slides give an overview of the types of research that have been coming out of the academic and industry collaborations that the thematic areas have facilitated. I'm not going to read them all. Again, I'm going to assume that people will read the slides as we move forward, but we're looking at things like what happens at the end of life in a particular geographical area. We're looking at material flow, mapping of non-reusable textiles. As I say, I will flick forward because I don't want to read everything for you. We've got 2 lots of Legistandards, which is looking specifically about data legislation and how we actually feed into the digital product passports. So we've funded 2 levels of that. We've got one here and then one down here. Oh, 3, I beg your pardon. I'd forgotten we'd funded one in the last call as well. We're looking at gamification to help understanding. So this thread here, the Biome Collective, who are working with Marks and Spencer's. They are looking at making the data that we do have more accessible so consumers understand what it is they're buying. And let's see if I can move forward again. Care and repair, looking at whether we have the skills to manage our own wardrobes, which is very interesting. The number of people that don't know how to sew a button on is quite shocking. Colour, we've got some very interesting research coming out of here, but we've also got some more research we're about to publish with Burberry in a special edition of Fashion Practice. And then we're looking at eco-modulation. We're looking at the impact of having this environmental product, the EPR legislation, and what that actually means for consumers. How do we make it visible? How do we use that to make informed choices that will encourage more sustainable behaviour? There's lots going on in this space. So moving on from the specifics from back to baselines, this is what the overall Network Plus looks like. Apologies for the very small organogram. Basically, we have 3 strands of the subnetworks, each of which were funded to the tune of £2 million. And then we have another 1.2 million, which is looking at this programme coordination team. The PCT is convened by Professor Stephen Russell, who's the director of LETAC. I work very closely with Steve. My role as associate director is to help with the operationalisation of these big programmes and to look after the ops team for the Institute. So we're convening the entirety of the work. We have 8 academic partners within, well, academic and 2 industry within back to baselines. There are several more academic partners across the other 2 networks. So together we represent a gateway to, I would say, the vast majority of research active textile and fashion universities in the UK. We've got 3 different strands of activity that bring together the 3 sub-networks. We've got communication and events strand, early career researchers, very importantly, making sure that the ECRs in the network understand why industry is concerned about certain things and understand more about how to speak with industry. And then we have an evaluation team. We have a toolkit that we have developed, and again we've got a couple of publications in mind at the end of the programme. Getting back to more generally, the Plus Pot is designed to let us respond in an agile way during delivering the project. I've spoken a bit about the Back to Baselines Plus Pot projects. We also have PCT Plus Pot projects. So these are where all 3 subnetworks are coming together. These are just some of the titles to give you an idea of the sorts of things that we're looking at. But we're looking at here, for example, the business of how do we evidence what's helping repair and impact on a more circular fashion system. This one won the prize for the best project title, Spores and Chores. So this is consumer perceptions of what, in this case, biotic textiles means. We've got Exeter and Leeds working together on this, looking at microfiber shedding and what the impact is down the line. You know, where are we finding them? What can we do to stop the shedding? Manufacturing to retain microfibers during the first wash is one of the things that we're looking at. So that's that one. More care and repair, thinking more about how you, I mean, it says activate clothing maintenance and repair here, but how do you encourage people to sew buttons on, hem trousers, stitch seams, whatever it might be, rather than discard clothing? And then again here, very much our industry driven, industry facing, the industry's perspective. What does this mean? How is all the legislation and all the research that we're doing actually going to be used by industry? If we tailor something with them to start with, if we co-develop, it's got much more chance of being taken up and much more chance of having a positive impact. And then finally, there's lots and lots and lots of research going on. Our communications and events lead, Kat, has been doing an amazing job developing us a knowledge and information portal. So on this knowledge and information portal, we're going to be lodging all the outcomes from the Network Plus, but also because we have such a big range of academic and industry partners, we're going to be putting on all the associated research from across our network as well. So hopefully this will be the place to access all this top quality research that we're generating. And we're hoping it's going to become a signposting tool for collaboration so that we can move forward and make more connectivity. And obviously that's one of the reasons that that's the main reason I'm here today speaking with you, because we really want to get involved with what is a global problem, a global challenge. We don't want to be sitting working in a little UK silo. We want to be making these connections, getting involved in larger projects, co-developing solutions. So this is me, that's my email address.